Hi everyone, it is June 9, 2023, and the Philippines is celebrating its Independence Day on June 12, Monday. I think it's a very timely topic. The question that I want to answer in today's class, Free Friday classes, with or without Maharlika funds, will the Philippine market actually offer superior returns over time deposits? Today, the Filipinos can enjoy as much as 5% interest rates in time deposits or sometimes 4%, depending on which banks that you are actually getting your returns from. And there are several digital banks considered that you can look at. But the question really is, should the money be parked over in time deposits or should the Philippine market be parked as well? So we're going to try to discuss that today. And hopefully we get hopefully this information will help you decide. Okay, a few things to understand with or without Maharlika funds. In the first place, what's Maharlika funds, right? So the Maharlika Investment Fund Bill posibleng umiral na bago matapos ang 2023. This was um, in the news. A few days ago, Department of Finance chief said the fears of Maharlika Fund's failure leading to banks' collapse is just panic. Some economists are saying that the Maharlika Fund will help the Philippine long-term development. Some senators are talking about the following things. Senator Kiko Pimentel said that GSIS and SSS should not be allowed to invest in the Maharlika Investment Fund so that we no longer have to worry and we can always be on guard if some funds were transferred to an entity whose mandate is to be aggressive in investing. How will it earn enough if our world economy is down, inflation is high, business closures are still on the rise? Some PH House speakers, like Philippine Central Bank Governor Felipe Medalla, said this proposed Maharlika Fund may even boost the stock market. Martin Romualdez, the Philippine House Speaker, said the dividends which we will channel to fund government social programs towards achievement of the nation's development goals. Senator Win Gatchalian said, I voted in the favor of Maharlika Investment Fund due to its investment initiative for profitable infrastructure projects. And it is very clear in the Maharlika Investment Fund that they've approved that this was amended where all pension funds, including GSIS and SSS, are not allowed to invest in MIF. Gatchalian said there are also 4 levels of audit in the Maharlika Investment Fund bill, which makes it more transparent and less likely to be just abused. And then you've got Senator Cheese Escudero who said, hindi perfecto, but this is a very different bill versus the House-passed bill. Take note though that Senator Cheese Escudero was absent. So he said that by his absence, it doesn't mean that he's in favor, but absence doesn't mean anything really. Okay, so GSIS and SSS and other pension funds, it's very clear, cannot invest in a MIF. So pag may tanong, safe ba talaga ang GSIS and SSS contributions natin? So far, all of these are not related and actually cannot invest in Maharlika Investment Fund. Now, there's several critics. You can see in the news that bankers, private citizens, economists, government officials said there's lack of fiscal space. Philippines has high debt levels, and their fears of possibly mishandling of funds is one of the reasons why the Philippines is not yet ready for a sovereign wealth fund. In fact, others are saying there are problems in terms of the timing. Why is it that we are pushing for this when we do not have excess capital at the present? Asked by Ateneo de Manila University's Leonardo Lanzona. And then there are also former cabinet secretaries and undersecretaries. For Senator Gatchalian, when he was invited by Karen Davila to discuss why he voted a yes, he said that the Philippines needed to invest in, as an example, he talked about the Panay Island interconnection. He said that the private investments today cannot invest because they've already out of funds, meaning the private sector today has already allocated most of their funds and still kulang pa rin yung infrastructure projects na nagagawa. Another example would be the Bataan-Cavite Interlink project. So yes, there are already conglomerates like MPI, there are already conglomerates like San Miguel that are already building all these roads for the nation building, but he believes that the private sector is not yet enough, and therefore there is these several projects that are getting derailed and not getting built. So he said that the goal is that the toll roads get built, and there are so many models. The government can outsource, they can do a hybrid PPP, there could be financing or any fund mechanism evolving. And he also noted that sovereign wealth funds today isn't the same as before, wherein sovereign wealth funds in the past usually come from excess funds from the likes of Norway or the likes of Saudi, which are awash with inflows of cash due to their excess oil related bonanza. In one of the interviews, Karen Davila asked, one of the problems of the Philippines is we have a debt that is increasing. Philippine debt is increasing. What happens when the Maharlika Investment Fund loses? Doesn't this result to the higher taxes for the Filipinos in the end? So Senator Gatchalian said they've put enough safeguards to make sure the public funds are protected and that the people who abuse this will be prosecuted. And there will be several penalties for any corrupt officials in the fund in case people are assuming that this is another 1MDB scandal. You've got in the Senate, these are the yeses and the noes. You've got actually 19 yeses, and you've got about one no from Senator Risa Hontiveros, abstain from Nancy Binay, and three are not present, which is Cheese Escudero, Kiko Pimentel, and Ivy Marcos. So you've got actually a majority vote. So basically, that means that in the couple of weeks or days or months, I don't know when, but there will be a Maharlika Investment Fund with, I guess, within the end of the year. Now, Benjamin Jokno, the Philippine Finance Secretary, said if you give them the opportunity to invest in infrastructure, example, tollways, and this would have a 20% return, why should we prohibit it? This is why there is a board of directors. Now, critics are, of course, worrying about this passage of Maharlika Investment Fund bill. Diwa Ginugundo, which is our former BSP governor, is saying that one of the good things is that the Senate already prohibited GSIS and SSS from investing in Maharlika Corp. It is very explicit here, and Senator Tulfo actually reiterated that there is no governing GFIs, GOCCs that can invest in any of these Maharlika investment funds. That's why they also proposed, that this is a very different Maharlika Investment Fund bill that the House yung House of Representatives passed versus what the Senate actually passed. In terms of the board, we're also seeing from the news that this Maharlika Investment Fund board will be currently chaired by the Secretary of Finance, with the corporation CEO, Land Bank President, DBP President, 7 members to be nominated by Maharlika Investment Fund contributors commensurate to their contributions, and 4 independent directors. So we don't know who these are, but that's like the written print. Says here that there will be a board of directors that would manage the fund. And, teka, okay. Of course, another important opinion to understand is ex-Philippine NEDA Secretary Ma'am Winnie Monsod. She was actually saying that the passage of Maharlika Fund is a political move. There has been a lot of discussions that number one, she is asking, number one, where is the source of the funds? How do you call this a sovereign wealth fund when Philippines does not have a surplus? As we know, she's saying that, I am quoting Marcos, what is the value added of this sovereign wealth fund? We do not know what's going to happen to it. It is now a shell company. What do you think is going to happen to this Philippine fund? So she's a critic of the fund because she believes that this is more of a political move. 19 have already voted for it. I don't even know if they understand what it is all about. This is a strictly political move and not an economic move for the senators. What are also these projects? The Senate has said they've introduced safeguards to prevent this fund to be a 1MDB scandal. And then Monsod said, I do not know if they can really safeguard the Filipino people. I'm truly afraid. What projects are these funds going to finance? Are they going to invest in blue chip stocks? Will that contribute to development? She also said it looks like Martin Romualdez, the House Speaker, is confused. She's also saying where they are getting their funds from. Take note that Maharlika Investment Fund is targeted to be 500 billion pesos with an authorized capital of 125. It says that actually on that 125 billion is going to come from dividends from Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, which is very terrible because the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is supposed to safeguard the Filipinos from the rising risk of inflation and depreciation of the Philippine peso. She's also saying, what's the effect to the Filipino people if the funds lose money? Winnie Monsod is saying, our central bank, remember, went bankrupt during the earlier Marcos regime in the late 1980s. History teaches us that if the government fails, it is the entire Filipino people who fail. If this institution is not created well, if there is no transparency, if it is a discussion between congressmen, senators, please remember it is the people, the Filipino people, funding this. Therefore, we should be able to find out if it's really good or not. And from the way it looks like, she said, this fund, do your homework. Former BSP Governor Diwa Ginugundo said the problem with Maharlika Investment Fund is that we do not have surplus. It actually relies from Land Bank and Development Bank, 50 billion pesos. Then the national government will have to share 50 billion pesos instead of recapitalizing the government because these are coming from dividends from Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. This public money is supposed to support the national budget, and instead of using this for infrastructure or socio-economic services like medical facilities, other important social services, as a result, this will be forced to impose higher taxes, borrow from domestic or foreign capital markets instead of mitigating high fiscal deficit and increase public debt. He actually said this Maharlika Investment Fund may in fact worsen it. So that was his contention on this Maharlika Investment Fund. He said public revenue should be able to support national budget. The certification of this bill as urgent, he also said, is counterintuitive because this isn't the time to invest outside the Philippines. There are more risks. We need more funds for hospital beds, infrastructure, higher level of digitalization to prove and improve our competitiveness to external markets. Said more funds needed for education, hospital digitization. And he said that the mandate of the central bank is to keep the prices of the Philippines, of course, peso, currency, and the inflation of goods stable. It's important for us Filipinos to be risk conscious. Take note, all right? So let's learn more. This was actually written by Rappler. Rappler said, what is a sovereign wealth fund? A sovereign wealth fund is state-owned fund financed by a country's surplus reserve. So by itself, that's one of the reason and contention of the people who are against the sovereign wealth fund. This is not a surplus. The government is investing these funds in target of stabilizing budgets, promoting economic development, to invest in sectors that will promote infrastructure to help fund the country's priority programs. Some are patterning this on other nations like Singapore, China, Hong Kong, South Korea, and Malaysia. Now, according to what the government said, they will source the funds from Bangko Sentral, PSP, 100% of their dividends, as well as government financial institutions such as Land Bank and Development Bank of the Philippines to provide the initial authorized capital. The GFIs may also hike their respective investments above the contribution and likewise be entitled to prudential and regulatory reliefs to protect their financial soundness. So Land Bank of the Philippines and DBP are mostly the ones funding this. And of course, this the version today has already disproved and removed the GSIS and SSS as seed capital. As you can see, the ones who will oversee this fund will likely come from independent directors from academe, business sectors, chaired by the finance secretary. This body will be comprised of DBP and Land Bank executives, so the president of Land Bank and DBP. So, is this really a pathway to corruption? Is this really rushed approval? Only 6 lawmakers so far have voted against the Maharlika Investment Fund bill. You've got Representative Franz Castro, Raul Manuel, Representative Arlene Brosas, Representative Mujib Hataman, Representative Edsel Lagman, Representative Gabriel Bordado, who voted against this bill. From Arlene Brosas, he said, we are against the passage of this Maharlika Investment Fund, as she really emphasizes that this one looks more as a pathway to corruption. However, between the 6 lawmakers, there are 279 others who already approved this bill. And so, looks like good to go na to. So yun, you can see that there's a lot of controversy, and we here in Awesome10X take the plot, take the question more on an objective point of view. As you can see from the title, with or without Maharlika Investment Fund, should you even invest in the Philippine markets? And should the Philippine markets even provide superior returns versus a 5% time deposit? Meaning, kikita ka ba ng more than 5% dito sa stock market for it to be worth your money to park it there? A few things that we have to understand, no? When you talk about mega trends, we're talking about probably 10 years or more. And the Philippines is currently in the cusp of the same decarbonization trend that is happening worldwide. Yes, the Philippines is also in a digitization trend where we are now, of course, hitting more cashless payments. We're already broadening our impact of internet businesses wherein lahat nagsusurvive with e-commerce. There's a lot of Filipinos now embracing not just e-commerce but financial payments, the convenience of digitization of everything from contracts to even paying your Meralco bill, utility bills. No, so hindi lang payments. There's generally just digitization all over. Remote work trends also happening in the Philippines, and then of course the Philippine megatrend, which has always been a part and parcel of the Philippine population, is still true. No, so consumption spending. In the Maharlika thread, I'm gonna read to you my initial discussions, my initial tweets about this. Let's see. Teka lang ah. So, the way I'll answer the question, guys, is the following. For stock market investors here, per se, the question that I really think about is, if, for instance, this Maharlika Investment Fund invested in the Philippines, June 2, 2023, first and foremost, do I think will they make money? So personally, my answer here, to cut to the chase, since there's just too many undervalued companies in the Philippines, assuming they will buy Philippine stocks, no? Give it time, I actually think they will make money. So some of my ideas is, yes, SM Prime. As you can see, SM Prime today, well, June 2 was trading about 32.75. And around 32.75 below, you can see that the downside is about 28. That price has been in the same level since about 6 years ago. And we already know that, yes, the Filipinos here have already shopped and continue to shop in the malls. And here, my answer here is high profit margins. You've got more than 95% rent occupancy, still really amazing for SM Prime Holdings. And they're scaling very, very well in China. So, of course, for those who are able to visit China, Xiamen SM, Guangzhou SM, those seem to be a very good and lucrative area for the Philippine government itself, or maybe not Philippine government, but you yourself to look at and to invest upon. The other thing is it's very clear, no? I do believe that the Philippines has been emphasizing infrastructure. They are powering up our country's renewable energy goals. But the thing is, the Philippines does not have a choice but to invest in energy projects, right? So you've got a lot of energy projects to choose from. In fact, I will discuss what has been a good, not just about the commodities, but in the first place, the Philippines is reliant on coal. You've got Semirara Power and you've got Aboitiz Power. I would have actually emphasized Aboitiz Power, but Aboitiz Power already flew. So we actually emphasized to buy Aboitiz Power in an earlier Awesome 10X video when Aboitiz Power was trading at about 24. Yes, we actually said that. You can actually check that here. YouTube.com, Aboitiz Power, Awesome 10X. We emphasize actually Aboitiz Power to be a buy because of the growing renewable energy for a balanced portfolio. Aboitiz Power and Aboitiz Equity Ventures a year ago, 2 years ago. So we do agree with Aboitiz Power, Aboitiz Equity Ventures for a balanced portfolio in the Philippines, not just about renewable, but really about investing in the entire energy complex of the Philippines, considering coal plants, LNG gas plants, hydropower, geothermal. So in that light, no, while Semirara is actually correcting from 44 towards 28, might even fall 25 to 24, this looks like an area where the Philippine government or any investor in the Philippines can actually consider looking at. I do agree that the sell-off in commodities is actually a good entry point, given that this government fund or any supposedly foreign or Philippine fund is supposed to have a long-term mandate. So Semirara and Nicolasia actually stand out in my view because of the cash flows that these two companies can generate and provide as a dividend for for the national development goals. So Nicolasia, you're about 588 towards 5. This looks to me as a reality that the Philippine market can actually consider. Okay. Another thing that I tweeted was arguably reopening plays. No, reopening plays are still real. We have actually seen Cebu Pacific already reported more than 100% increase in revenues, and the pandemic reopening was a reality. So the losses have actually been reversed, and yet Cebu Air is actually still trading around 39, 40 peso. It's actually still off by a lot given from the pandemic areas of about 70 to 80. So you're actually seeing a potential value play here in Cebu, Philippines, because there are only two Philippine companies that are catering towards tourism and catering towards transportation. You've got Cebu Air and Philippine Airlines, and it looks like Cebu Airlines is something that the Philippine tourism should actually boost upon. No? So this is one thing. Plus, of course, those airport projects in Bulacan and the remodernization of the NAIA airport, diba? So that is a positive towards Cebu Air over the long run. The same thing you can argue is possibly a thing for Petron and Shell. Petron and Shell meaning reasons really is due to the fact that as more and more oil demand is needed just to power up the country for mobility, then that's a normal reopening play. Of course, this has gone up for Petron, going from 2.3s to as high as 5, and then, sorry, not 5, 4.65, falling straight back to 330s to 360s. And now that it's back to 330s to 360s, Petron Corporation might actually be taken and looked upon by the government itself. Shell Philippines has never really recovered. It's still been trading at about 15, 14, 15, 16 pesos. And while the company has stopped paying dividends over 2023, and hindi na-disappoint, of course, some people about that, it looks like the Shell Philippines can still actually maneuver itself if it actually generates enough revenues and income over the next few years. So something to look at on the reopening place of the Philippines. Now, the beautiful thing about the Philippines is that you can actually diversify. We are actually seeing significant undervaluation of your consumer-related companies, no? So, Mr. Diwa Ginugundo mentioned that why invest daw in the Philippines? And to me, my answer would be the Philippines is trading at 10-year lows. Some of them are trading at 10-year lows even when cash flows and revenues are more than quadruple. Pure gold is actually trading today at about 30 pesos. You can clearly see that there are far more pure gold supermarkets all over the country. They are serving a wide network of Filipinos, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, and consumer spending continues to be more than 200 billion pesos revenue for Pure Gold Price Club and SNR. That's the reason why they can afford to do capex, they can afford to go expand their SNR, and they can actually see that these are proxies, both SM and Pure Gold Price Club is a proxy for retail spending in the Philippines. So I'm not saying that the retail spending in the Philippines is great, but the pricing of pure gold already assumes the worst. So you're seeing actually a pure gold here at 30 pesos is actually trading, guys, at an unbeatable price value of 10 times PE ratio. What does 10 times PE ratio mean? It means that a company earns 3 pesos a year and you're just paying about 30 pesos, or you can actually generate enough cash flows to own a very cheap business with a wide moat. As I said, the distribution of pure gold is Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, which makes it actually a suitable Philippine grocery play or retail spending play. Of course, you've got companies that are a little bit newer, like Monde Nissin, but we argued actually at about 780, 8 peso, 830, and we actually made a fundamental rationale, and I'll read it to you as well, guys. Monde Nissin today is one of the largest and continues to be the largest companies in the Philippines that cater to 100 million Filipinos. 100 million Filipinos consider rice as a staple, but also instant noodles, which Monde Nissin actually dominates upon, which is your, yes, you know it, Monde Nissin's Lucky Me Pancit Canton. Let's go through actually the Monde Nissin thread. I'm gonna just read it for you. Then I'm gonna explain it, which with some slides coming straight from Monde Nissin itself. No, so to me, for those who aren't aware, Monde Nissin has already been listed in the Philippine market, and it listed last year, I believe, at about 13.50 per share. It's currently trading at about 8 pesos, and the fundamental rationale to support Monde Nissin is number one, in terms of Asia Pacific, Lucky Me is still the number one with as much as 68% market share. You've got biscuits like Skyflakes, Fita, Nissin, MY San, Graham Crackers. You've got Mamacita's oyster sauce number one. You've got yogurt drinks. So in general, guys, you are supporting simply a company that is profitable. These are not companies that are not going to be able to surpass any inflationary problem. In fact, Monde Nissin has actually shown that despite high inflation in the Philippines of as much as I think the Philippine inflation came out at 7+%. It looks like the company was able to pass it on actually, and the demand continued to stay there, such that Montel makes about 2 billion pesos income per quarter. Currently, the stock, when I evaluated it at about 780, the stock was trading at about 143 billion this year. That would make the company trading at less than 20 times PE, because 2 billion times 4, assuming that you annualize an extraordinarily low quarter still, that means that this company, you're assuming a very low income, is still actually trading at low valuations. Also, as we can see, as I said, 1Q23, which you've seen in the company's report, is not reflective of its typical Mondenisin quarter. This is not a quarter that reflects the true state of the Filipinos. You should assume first quarter 23 is a dire situation because most Filipinos cannot spend much due to high inflation. We've seen that as inflation abates, or at the very least becomes accepted as norm, at that basically that rate is stable for next few years, then that means that this income assumes Filipinos can actually, that income that you saw for first quarter 23 assumes that Filipinos are always going to be poor forever, which may not be the case. If you assume that within 5 years, Filipinos are eating more, able to actually spend more, population is more, that sales naturally grows over time, and that income of 8 billion is not expected to be static flat forever. And you're not actually buying a company simply by its income today, not just that, but actually its growth potential for the rest of the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. At the same time, this should be clear. You can see that their wheat and palm oil are the biggest commodity cost of Mondenisin. Why? Because noodles definitely needs wheat and palm oil. So measures were taken in first half 2022 to already secure the supply. And then they said that the wheat and crude palm oil, partly secured for 3Q23 and 4Q23 respectively, is already low. So that means that it's actually 50% lower. That means there is a potential likelihood for margin recovery. No? So delayed depletion of elevated locked-in commodity costs, further margin recovery for the long term. So you're actually buying a company, the Philippine government or whoever, whichever fund is actually buying a company not for today's earnings, but for the future earnings. And if you can see that the earnings for the next couple of years will actually be stronger due to this margin recovery, it makes sense. Actually, if you ask me, if Maharlika Investment Fund invested in Mondenisin today, that was June 2 or June 9, even at today's level at about 8.3 areas. The effect of tapered commodity pressures delayed due to temporary decline in noodles in Q3. Okay, so going forward, it does look like these commodity trends will actually at least stabilize, no? And then, as you can see, almost all branded consumer foods group abroad isn't trading at 10 times multiple or even less than 20 times multiple. As you can see, a consumer defensive product like Walmart trades at about 35 times multiple in the USA. You've got Coca-Cola and Pepsi trading with about 26 to 37. You've got P&G trading at 25 times PE. Costco, which is also a supermarket, is trading at 37 times. You've got companies like Philip Morris, which is tobacco, at about 16 times. You've got Unilever trading at about 15 times. Mondelez, which is confectionaries, 25 times. And then Diageo at 22 times. In general, what you're seeing, guys, is that if you are looking at valuations, these companies in the Philippines are number one, earning money, and yet their valuations are at far discounts versus the big consumer defensives that are reliable. The fact that they are consumer defensives means that resistant yan sa recession. It doesn't mean that the Filipinos cannot eat because there is a recession. Consumer staples are defensive, I agree, and can provide cash flow cushion through dividends. The dividends might not be as big, but the point is that they have earnings every year and they can actually cushion any downside despite any economic climate. Hence, yun nga, one of the things is that actually Mondenisin, even without the technical support then, at about 8 to 7, we feel that it was a support area fundamentally from a fundamental judgment. And it will go back over time because downside is limited once you consider the value and the moat of the business. So we add to the fact that, of course, the business moat is entrenched. This is a company that you probably will not be able to get a 10 times PE ratio. We don't think so. As foreign or local already knows the dominance of these distribution networks, the brands itself, for decades already. Yeah, so that's why I said I don't think I will be off at 50%. If you're buying at 8, I don't think you'll get it at 4. So your downside is closer, maybe 7. The actual panic low was 765. Yeah, so for reference, you can see that you can clearly see wheat has fallen down by 50%. That palm oil has already fallen down 55%, which is one of the reasons that you might actually also be looking at, of course, DNL. When palm oil actually depletes and goes down like that, your primary cost in DNL, which is oleo fats, ends up making another margin recovery. So you have actually a lot of pickings in the Philippine market, wherein the cash flows are there. The drivers are actually going towards the side of positive for the consumers in terms of margin recovery. So that's actually very good for the food industry itself, food manufacturing. So here, DNL Industries also announced just a couple of days ago a 30 cents cash dividend. So you can see that from about 7, it's now trading at 7.3. It's actually near that near those supportive areas, 7 to 660 during the 2021. So about 3-year lows here. Yeah, so higher low for DNL, not the same levels at 2020, but still actually in a positive light as well. With net income, yeah, quarterly net income at about 600 million pesos. Okay, wait ah. Uh-huh. Wait sorry. Let's go through more here. Where was I? Yeah, so far actually we chose Monde. But you can actually arguably say that it's the same thing, not just for the big guys, big index names like Pure Gold and Monde. Although I'm not sure if the Philippine Maharlika Investment Fund is even allowed to invest in small companies. You've got small companies like Metro Gaisano Retail Stores Group also trading here about 120 to 140. And you can see that it has been actually trading at these levels. If my memory is correct, it's trading about 3 times, 4 times PE multiple, in the same trajectory, wherein you've got a lot, and these buying areas is actually deployed by the company itself. So this is a more of treasury buyback program that the Metro Retail Stores Group has already decided to pursue, to unlock value for shareholders. No, so they believe in the company, they put their own money and mouth dyan. Okay, so you've got, of course, Robinson's Retail as well. We have seen a lot of buyback areas at about 50 pesos. Another thing to understand is that Robinson's Retail paid 2 pesos, which means a 4% dividend yield. So not only do these companies provide caution in terms of dividends, ganun din, no? So people who have been buying Robinson's Retail at these levels are getting at the same price as last 9 years ago, 2014. That is the 2014 low. And suggesting actually, number one, you've got revenues already growing over that time span. So something to watch out, di ba? That the retail spending in the Philippines is not really expected to decline. And even if you're assuming a decline, the prices are already at 10-year lows. So how much price in worsening do you actually expect from the retail segment? Now, there are actually many new companies listed. Some are well known, some are not. You've got actually Pure Gold's conglomerate Costco Capital, still illiquid. Took a look at the Costco Capital. I believe it's trading at about 4.5 times multiple already. I know that the Philippine is illiquid. You can see there's very little volume. That's why it's included mostly on illiquid companies. They are, however, growing their business income, and we can see that Costco Capital has also instituted a buyback program. You can see a lot of share buys for 50, for 80s, for 30s, for 20s. So it's actually rebounded a little bit from about 3 something towards 5, but it's still actually considered by technicians as a downtrend. But fundamentally, there's actually quite some accumulation going on here. You're also seeing, of course, Keepers Holdings has been listed fairly new in the market, but is very clearly also the number one when it comes to their distribution network, diba, in the Philippines for the Montosco wine and spirits, the premier wines and spirits. So they actually handle almost all the liquor in the Philippines. So bago pa lang siya, so not many people probably understand the business, but actually very profitable. So over the last 2 years that it's been listed, company has been being bought, no, from about 1 peso to 1.5. And this company is carrying all sorts of liquor, not just their own, yung Alfonso Brandy. They are distributing imported liquor. So there's actually a lot of liquor like Johnny Walker, from the likes of Johnny Walker, Blue Label, Black Label, lahat ng Johnny Walker, lahat ng Diageo products, lahat ng mga, actually name any liquor that you want to name, dala yan Keepers Holdings in the Philippines. So it's actually a company that is basically profitable, that is good to look at and invest upon. Then of course you've got Aslag. We will have, so Aslag, we actually interviewed this company. We have an IPO update as well, a year after anniversary. While the stock price actually looks very, very bad, it's just hitting new lows at 140 due to illiquidity. You can see that actually Raslag has seen their revenues and earnings improve. In fact, their dividends was paid last year at 3 centavos. And with the inclusion this year of Raslag 3, their third power plant, this is the only solar renewable energy company listed in the Philippines so far that is profitable. When you say profitable, they can already issue dividends, unlike the others wherein di mo magawa yung PE ratio kasi wala pang E. Ito, medyo stable na siya. You can actually value it correctly with some earnings to watch. This one is trading in my estimates at about 10 to 12 times PE ratio as well. So there's actually quite a lot of companies that we are seeing, bago-bago pa lang, medyo bago, but interesting companies anyway from an earnings standpoint. Of course, telecoms are also decent dividend plays. We talk about Globe, we talk about PLDT. Utility firms, we argue, are actually very stable, dividends resistant proof. So Globe has actually been trading at about $1,700, which was the not dollars, peso, same price over the last 10 years at about 2014s. And we can see that, over the last 10 years, the same thing can be said that Globe Telecom has been expanding their broadband connectivity and internet connection not worldwide, but Philippine-wide. So you can see the profits have been growing and, of course, being deployed in major business ventures such as their unicorn, which is a decacorn, which is Globe's GCash. Another unlock, though, is actually recently, this is news that just came out last night. Yesterday, Globe Telecom CEO says GCash is ready now for IPO this year amid growth because it is ready and it is profitable. The growth is there. The profitable has been there for almost 2 years now. The plan has been pushed to end of the year. The company already has over 76 million users as of the fourth quarter. This is, of course, a beneficiary of the digitization trend as more and more Filipinos provide their payments, their bills, savings, investments, and insurance services inside GCash, also providing G loans, also offering crypto, perhaps stocks in the future. I believe that GCash has already partnered and inked with a Philippine company, AB Capital, to help them in the G Invest. So the popularity of the mobile payment app has, of course, surged. Customers are opting for cashless transactions, for online shopping, for bill payments, to transport fares like Grab, diba? So Globe has been the proponent, number one, when it comes to digital wallets in the Philippines with massive profitability. So this is scalable, a business to actually support for, which anyone actually will be benefiting from if you think about it. Regarding the comment on Monday, yung issue sa corn, actually zinero ko na yung corn. That's why it doesn't matter if corn is a zero investment value, because if you just take a look at the core business of Monday, it's already enough to be paid at 8 pesos. So assuming that you just basically delete the entire corn business, it's not gonna affect. Like, tapon na lang nila yung corn, benta na lang nila or something, and focus on their core businesses, and they're okay at that level. So it looks to me that everyone exaggerating about the corn business is also underestimating the long-term prospects of the core business of Mondenisin, which has always been the noodles, the biscuits, and mostly biscuits, noodles, and mga snacks, diba? Sauces, diba? All right. So I was saying, where was I? So Globe stands out in that midst. I do have to say though that give it a few years, if Globe's GCash IPO, so sabi nga nila end of year meron daw, that is a good unlock. But after that, there's also more unlocks that could happen. We do have to state that one of the unlock spin-offs that we think is gonna happen, not necessarily this year, but perhaps within 2 years or more, is the potato corner spin-off. Now, this is a speculation on my end. Actually, this entire program, this is just my opinion, not anyone else's opinion. So we can see that from articles in 2022, Potato Corner has been bought by Shakey's Pizza. And Potato Corner has been basically been growing and expanding in China and Southeast Asia. No? This was reported in 2022. Previously, they opened outlets in Guangzhou, Hengyang, Chimchun, and they wanted to open more Potato Corner flags at every corner of the world. The company's expansion is across the Southeast Asia region. They've opened in Thailand, the Suvarnabhumi Airport in Thailand. They opened in Lucky Plaza in Singapore, the Chipmunk 271 Mega Mall in Cambodia. Potato Corner, as of 2022, has over 1,100 stores in the Philippines, 200 outlets across 12 countries. They want to expand that furthermore, maybe 500 outlets. Apart from providing fun and flavorful moments, Potato Corner's purpose revolves around creating opportunities for small and micro entrepreneurs, both locally and abroad. Earlier, they also announced a record spending of 650 million pesos, opening their stores across their core brand Shakey's Pizza, including 150 new Potato Corner outlets. So the first half earnings actually for 2022 already surged 18 times to 250 million due to the return of diners and the takeover of Potato Corner. As of 2023, first quarter of Potato Corner and Shakey's Pizza, I do have to, so you can actually check Edge. But I remember seeing about a 700% increase in terms of profitability kasi coming from pandemic lows, di ba? So we actually covered Shakey's Pizza as a hidden gem to be bought with potential kicking yields no on spin-offs. So on the spin-off of Potato Corner sometime within the end of the year. So not this year. Probably it's gonna take a while, but it is gonna be a hit if ever. No. So yeah, you can actually see their quarterly reports here. Shakey's Pizza today. You can see current assets, total assets, retained earnings has been growing. Revenues, hindi naka-breakdown kung paano yung so we can't see the exact how much no like how much did the Potato Corner sales grew year on year, but looks like this company is in a expansionary phase, so they're also registering more brands. Incorporation of Shanghai Miao Miao Shu Chan Ing Yo Xian Kong Si. This is to operate Shakey's Pizza brand in stores, perhaps in China, operating in China. Material information. Yeah, sige. So, press release, April 17. I remember reading maganda yung profit, no? So here, you can see that the profitability, no? Shakey's Pizza posts a record high performance. Earnings are now hitting 874 million pesos, exceeding the pre-pandemic levels. System-wide sales have doubled. You've got system-wide sales now doubling above 36% above pre-pandemic levels. Top line, bottom line doubled, 4.5 billion, 420 million respectively for a strong 2022 finish. Yun nga, they didn't isolate what was Potato Corner's increase in revenues. Sinabi lang dito na Pizza's global store network is now 1772, 68 are peri-peri stores. They're accelerating their international presence, Singapore and Dubai. Potato Corner also opened new markets that year, China, UAE, United Kingdom. Potato Corner has 268 outlets in Singapore, with new stores in Singapore and Dubai, with rapid expansion of about 153 stores, now totaling 1,425 stores. So, yeah, so when you're expanding 1,425 stores, guys, it's amazing to see how strong this leading food kiosk brand of the Philippines is, world-renowned na. Over 1,000, maybe we'll hit 2,000 stores by the time that French Fries Potato Corner goes IPO someday or spin-off. Possible spin-off, hindi naman siya kailangan na pwede rin property dividend given to all the Shakey's investors, no? Either way, it looks like there is some lasting value. That was our assessment. Lasting value beyond the pandemic. So for those who want to actually check it out, pizza long-lasting value beyond the pandemic. So we think it's about 7 levels, 7+ levels during that time that we were doing that. But even at current levels, about 8 to 9, very good demonstrating growth. No, so something to watch for those people who are interested with a longer term view on Philippine companies. This one is a growth company. Actually, mas excited ako sa growth ni Potato Corner, obviously, because it's a smaller company versus, of course, opening expansions of pizzas. Okay. Lastly, so let's just finish this. So yun, as you can see, you are now using Bard. You can clearly see the sales revenues of the companies that I mentioned. Pure Gold has expanded over the last 10 years, no? 100 billion pesos to about 200 billion pesos and continue to grow that. You can see that the Philippine companies in general are growing. And so we are pretty much ripe for investments, whether it be Maharlika or whether it be a foreign fund. Now, I think the only thing that the Filipinos have to keep in mind is that one one thing that I agree upon with everyone who basically said Maharlika Investment Fund should not invest because it's not a surplus reserve. It's a country that does not have surplus reserves. So even from a Filipino standpoint, if you do not have surplus savings, it does not indeed make sense because these investments are long term in nature versus, for instance, you are a hand to mouth type of company or person, no, or in this case, our country. So in some ways, I do believe that di ko alam kung there will be amendments na sana ang gagamiting pondo is not BSP or hindi Land Bank or hindi DBP. It's okay to, have a investment fund if they want, but probably invested by people who have surplus reserves, no? Whoever it may be, foreign investors or local investors, whatever it may be, I do believe that is, ako, personal opinion is, it shouldn't come talaga from something that's not surplus. Otherwise, if you look at the returns that are possible in the Philippines, just think about it objectively. It does indeed present quite a lot of value buys. So that ends my podcast. I hope that these decisions or opinions can help you out. And see you again next week for market updates. Thank you very much. Bye bye.